Imagine falling in love, not with a stranger, not with a classmate, but with your best friend's mother. And one night, everything changes forever. What happened that night wasn't planned, wasn't spoken, but it rewrote 3 lives in ways no one could undo. Before we begin, if you believe love doesn't follow rules, hit subscribe, because this story will stay with you long after it ends. Arman never believed in complicated love. At 25, his life was simple: work, late-night drives, and his best friend Kabir, who had been like a brother since childhood. They had grown up together, shared secrets, dreams, and heartbreaks. Nothing in his life had ever crossed a line, until he met her in a way that changed everything. Kabir's mother, Meera, was not someone Arman had paid much attention to growing up. She had always been there in the background, warm, kind, quietly strong. But time had a strange way of revealing people differently. When Arman returned after years away, something felt different. Or maybe, he had changed. Meera was 55 now, but there was something timeless about her. Not just her appearance, but her presence. She carried a calm confidence, a depth that came from years of sacrifice, love, and silent endurance. Her husband had passed away years ago, and she had raised Kabir alone. There was strength in her eyes, but also loneliness that no one spoke about. The first evening Arman visited Kabir's house after years, it felt like stepping into a memory. The same walls, the same laughter, but Meera wasn't the same person he remembered. When she opened the door, their eyes met for a second longer than expected. Something unspoken passed between them. Not attraction, not yet, but awareness. Dinner that night was normal. Conversations flowed, laughter echoed, but Arman found himself noticing small things. The way she smiled softly, the way she listened more than she spoke, the quiet pauses where her eyes seemed lost somewhere else. Days turned into weeks, and Arman began visiting more often. Kabir was busy with work, often leaving them alone at home for hours. That's when conversations started to change. It began with simple talks: life, regrets, choices. Meera spoke about her past, about dreams she never chased, about the silence that filled her house after Kabir grew up. Arman listened, really listened. No one had done that for her in years. And somewhere in those conversations, a bond formed. One evening, rain poured heavily outside. Kabir was stuck at work. Power went out, leaving the house dimly lit by candlelight. The world outside disappeared into the sound of rain. They sat across from each other, silence filling the room, not awkward, but heavy. "You should go," Meera said softly, though her voice didn't carry conviction. Arman looked at her. "Do you want me to?" She didn't answer. That silence said everything. That night didn't begin with intention. It began with vulnerability. With 2 people who had been strong for too long, finally allowing themselves to feel. They talked for hours. About loneliness. About choices. About love that came too early, or too late. And then came the moment, the one neither of them would ever forget. A pause. A look. A heartbeat too loud. And everything changed. Not because something dramatic happened, but because something shifted inside them. A realization. A line crossed, not physically, but emotionally. They didn't speak about it the next day. Or the day after. But the distance between them had disappeared. Arman tried to stay away. He knew what this meant. What it could destroy. Kabir wasn't just his friend, he was family. But emotions don't follow logic. And Meera, she had spent years denying herself happiness. Now that something had awakened inside her, she couldn't ignore it either. Weeks passed in tension, in spoken feelings, avoided eye contact. Conversations cut short, until one night, Kabir left town for a few days. That night was different. There were no distractions, no interruptions, just truth waiting to be acknowledged. They didn't rush into anything. Instead, they confronted it. "This is wrong," Arman said, his voice heavy. Meera nodded. "Yes, but why does it feel real?" She didn't answer immediately. Then softly, "Because maybe it is." That night became a turning point. Not because of what they did, but because of what they accepted. They were no longer pretending. But reality has consequences. Kabir returned. And everything began to unravel. At first, it was subtle. He noticed the silence between them. The way Arman avoided his gaze. The way Meera seemed distant. Then came the moment he overheard something. Just a fragment of conversation, but enough to spark suspicion. Kabir wasn't foolish. The confrontation came suddenly. "What's going on?" he demanded one evening, his voice sharp. Silence. And then truth, slowly, painfully revealed. The look in Kabir's eyes changed, from confusion to disbelief, then to betrayal. "You," he said to Arman. "Out of everyone, you. There are moments in life where no explanation is enough. This was one of them." Kabir walked away that night, not shouting, not arguing, just leaving. And that silence hurt more than anything else. What followed was chaos. Friendship shattered. Trust broken. Love questioned. Arman lost his best friend. Mira lost her son. And both were left wondering, was it worth it? Months passed. Distance grew. But emotions didn't fade. Arman tried to move on, but every connection felt empty. Mira lived in a house that once felt full, now unbearably quiet. And Kabir carried anger that slowly turned into something else, understanding. Because time has a way of softening even the deepest wounds. One day, unexpectedly, Kabir returned. Not with forgiveness, but with questions. Was it real? He asked. Arman didn't hesitate. Yes. That honesty changed something. Kabir looked at his mother. For the first time, he saw not just a parent, but a person. Someone who had sacrificed everything for him, and now wanted something for herself. It wasn't easy. Forgiveness never is. But slowly, painfully, things began to shift. Not back to how they were, but into something new. Something honest. Something imperfect. Because love isn't always simple. Sometimes it breaks rules. Sometimes it hurts people. But sometimes, it also reveals truths we were never ready to face. And that night, the one that changed everything, was never about what happened. It was about what it awakened.